Sometimes the heart learns to breathe again the moment you hear a step you thought you'd never hear. The ranch is quiet, the morning is thin and silver, and a promise hangs in the air like mist over the fields. You think it's just another day, another list, another way to keep moving. But today is different. Today, a lost rhythm returns. The sun lifts slowly over Heartland, painting the fences gold and waking the birds in the cottonwoods. The yard looks the same as always, boots by the door, a saddle waiting on the rail, a coffee cup growing cold where someone got busy and forgot it. Yet there is a small tremble under everything familiar, like the breath you hold before saying a name you haven't said out loud in a long time. Inside the barn, leather creaks, hay whispers, and a gentle horse snorts as if it knows a secret. Amy moves with that careful calm she learned through Grace's steady hands, soft voice, the kind of strength that is quiet and kind. She brushes a coat until it shines, checks a hoof, resets a bridle that slips one notch lower than it used to. The tiny changes you make when life shifts, and you must shift with it. She believes in work because work keeps the world from breaking. Still, her eyes sometimes drift to the open door, as if the wine might walk in wearing an old jacket and a smile she remembers by heart. The ranch holds pictures even when the frames are empty. A jacket on a nail, a hat on a post, paths worn into the dirt by years of coming and going, laughter and hard days, fights and forgiveness. The family moves around each other like they always do. Jack with his watchful patience, Lou with a planner that can't plan every feeling, the others orbiting in their own small storms, but everything they do today has a hush around it. No one speaks the thought that keeps trying to rise. No one wants to chase hope like a spooked colt. Amy feeds Spartan and rests her cheek against his warm neck. She doesn't cry. She doesn't need to. This is the language she knows. Breath in, breath out. Hand on a horse, trust built one small moment at a time. Outside, a pickup slows on the road, and the sound leaves a thin trail behind it that fades before it becomes anything more. But the morning keeps opening. A cloud shifts, a crow calls once, then again. The gate at the far edge of the yard clicks in a way that is both ordinary and not ordinary at all. Sometimes the past doesn't knock. It simply steps back into the light you live in and waits to see if you will turn your head. Amy does not turn, not yet. She listens. She hears boots on packed earth, slow and careful, like someone counting the space between what was and what could be. Her hands pause on the brush. Spartan's ears point forward. There is a scent of dust, pine, and something older memories stirred by motion. The first truth to come home is always the sound dot in that space between one breath and the next. The world chooses. If this were any other day, the steps would pass by, the gate would swing shut, and the barn would go on being a barn. But this is not any other day. This is the morning that has been building ever since long nights felt too long and old dreams fell too far. The boots stop at the doorway. Amy still doesn't turn. She doesn't rush the moment or demand an answer or test the air for proof. She lets the stillness fill up because love, when it is real, doesn't need loud, it needs true. A figure stands there just inside the threshold, taking in the familiar shapes, the gentle light, the woman who once taught him that broken things can run again. No faces, no declarations, just the shared knowledge that roads can be hard and hearts can be stubborn, and yet somehow, against the odds, some paths lead back. Amy lays the brush down. The morning seems to hold out its hands the way a good horseman does open. Patient, not pushing, she turns, and the old world meets the new world in the quiet of a barn that has seen it all. First rides, last goodbyes, and now this. The beginning of something that remembers its own name. She doesn't step forward yet. He doesn't either. There are stories between them that have to be honored, and time has to be treated like a living thing, but the distance is smaller than it was. The ranch breeds with them. Somewhere a kettle clicks off. Somewhere a foal stamps and settles. Somewhere a door swings and stops on its hinge. The air is full of small, ordinary miracles. And this simple, impossible, faithful return feels like one of them. Amy lets a tiny smile lift, the kind that repairs what cracks cannot. The morning, at last, lets go of the mist, and with it, the day this new day begins. The sound of return is never the same as the sound of arrival. When someone comes back, the air remembers them first. At Heartland, the breeze seems to shift, carrying a weight that isn't heavy but undeniable, as if the land itself has been waiting for something to settle. The fence rails, worn smooth by years of leaning and mending, stand like witnesses. The horses lift their heads, ears flicking forward, nostrils flaring at the scent they know. They don't question, they don't doubt, they just remember. And in that instant, the ordinary turns into something rare, the shape of the past walking. Into the present, Ty's return is not loud, not cinematic, not even expected. It is careful, grounded, the way you approach a skittish colt, slow, steady, offering space for the truth to land. His boots carry the dust of too many roads, but his step is softer than the years suggest. Every line of the ranch greets him, the barn doors, scarred by time but strong. The weathered porch where laughter and arguments both lived. The open fields that roll toward the horizon, whispering home in every blade of grass. For a long while, he just stands still, because sometimes standing still is harder than walking forward. Amy feels it before she sees it. A shift in the silence, a ripple in the fabric of her morning. She has carried so much since he was gone, grief, growth, responsibility, and every ounce of it shows in the quiet steadiness of her hands. But in that heartbeat where presence collides with memory, her chest knows before her mind does. The rhythm she lost suddenly beats again. She turns slowly, as if too quick a movement might break the fragile thread between then and now. And there he is, not as he left, but as he is now. Older, lined with stories untold, carrying a weight that can't be erased, but maybe, just maybe, can be shared. That no words. Not yet. Words would be too small for the flood pressing against both of them. Instead, they look the way two people do when everything has already been spoken in the spaces they once shared. Ty's eyes don't apologies. Belong to the past. His eyes, instead, promise, I am here. I am whole. I am yours if you'll have me. Amy doesn't rush to close the gap. She breathes him in from where she stands, letting her heart test the truth in silence. In her stillness is her strength, the kind of strength that does not demand but listens. The barn itself seems to lean closer. Dust floats through beams of light, catching on the golden strands of hay. Spartan paws the ground once, a reminder that love has always had witnesses. Outside, a dog barks in the distance, the sound faint and grounding. The world does not stop for reunions, but it does bend around them, making space for the moment to root. Amy's hand finds the edge of the stall door, gripping it as though she needs the wood to steady her. Ty shifts his weight, and the creak of the floorboards beneath him is like a drumbeat announcing something sacred. When the first word does come, it isn't planned. It isn't rehearsed. It slips out raw, carrying the years between. Amy whispers his name, just that, just Ty, and in that syllable lives every night she wondered, every morning she worked without him, every secret she told the sky when no one else was listening. His answer is not immediate, because he lets the weight of her voice sink in. Then he breathes her name back, softer but certain. Amy. The barn exhales with them, as if the walls themselves have been holding their breath for this. They don't move closer yet. The distance between them is not punishment, it is respect. Respect for the scars, respect for the time, respect for the fact that love is not a sprint but a steady walk toward trust. Ty's gaze softens, tracing the life she has built without him, the strength in her shoulders, the resolve in her stance. He sees her not as he left her, but as she is now. And Amy, in turn, sees him not as the boy who rode into her world all those years ago, but as the man who somehow found his way back to it. The silence stretches, but it is not empty. It is full of memory, regret, longing, and the kind of forgiveness that doesn't erase but transforms. Their story has always been written in the language of pauses before a first kiss, before a promise, before every leap into the unknown. This pause feels like the biggest of them all. But in the pause, there is also peace. A peace that says, we don't need to rush. We're here. We're both here. And when Amy finally steps forward, it is small, almost invisible. But Ty sees it. He matches it with a step of his own. The barn, the ranch, the very earth beneath them hums with quiet approval, because some journeys end not with fireworks but with the steady sound of two hearts deciding, once again, to find their rhythm together. Section 3 is where silence begins to loosen, where the weight of years tries to turn into words. But words are tricky. They can heal, they can cut, and sometimes they arrive too late. At Heartland, in the stillness of that barn, it is not about who speaks first, it is about who dares to trust the sound of their own voice again. Amy studies Ty, not just with her eyes, but with the ache of someone who has carried him in memory for too long. She has rehearsed this moment in countless ways, angry, broken, hopeful, forgiving, but none of those imagined scripts fit the reality standing before her. What she sees is not the boy she once fell in love with, nor the ghost she grieved, but a man shaped by roads she did not walk beside him. That is what hurts most, not that he left, but that she was not there to see who he became. Ty takes a breath and seems to drag the whole barn with it. His chest rises, his jaw tightens, but when he finally speaks, the voice is low and careful, like he is afraid the wrong tone might send her retreating. I thought I could stay away, he admits. I thought maybe it was better, but every road kept leading me back here. His words fall into the air like pebbles in a river small, but the ripples widen fast. Amy's grip tightens on the stall door. She wants to answer with honesty, but honesty comes wrapped in pain. You don't get to just come back, she says, her voice even, but the tremor beneath it betrays the storm she's holding. You don't get to disappear and then walk through that door like time stopped waiting. Her eyes brim, not with tears of weakness, but with the sting of years she carried alone. Ty nods. He does not flinch. He accepts the wound because he knows he deserves it. I know, he whispers. I know I lost the right to expect anything, but I also know I can't stay gone anymore. Not from this place. Not from you. His hand lifts slightly, then stops, hovering in the air between them, unsure if it will be welcomed or rejected. That hesitation is everything it shows he has learned something about patience, about not demanding what must be earned. Silence falls again, but this time it isn't the heavy silence of strangers. It is the silence of two souls trying to find a bridge between them. And into that silence come flashes of memory. Amy sees the first time Ty smiled at her across the yard, the night he whispered promises under a canopy of stars, the fight they thought would end them, the kiss that made them believe again. These memories crash and collide until she feels dizzy with all they were and all they lost. Her voice breaks softer now, though still guarded. Do you know what it was like, Ty? To keep going because there was no choice. To carry everyone else's weight and pretend I wasn't breaking inside. Her words are sharp, but they tremble with truth. She needs him to understand, not to defend himself, but to see her. To really see her. Ty steps closer, just enough to close a fraction of the distance. I know I can't undo it, he says. I steady. I can't give you back the nights you cried, the mornings you stood alone. But I can give you this. I can give you now, if you'll let me. His voice cracks at the edge, and for the first time, she hears not just his regret but his longing. The barn holds its breath again. Spartan snorts, shifting his weight, as if impatient with the hesitation of humans. Amy lets out a shaky laugh, small and almost broken, because even in the middle of heartbreak, life has a way of reminding you to move forward. She wipes her cheek quickly, not wanting to show weakness, but Ty sees it anyway. He always did. Their eyes meet, and this time, Amy does not look away. You don't just walk back into love, she murmurs. You build it again. From nothing, the words are not rejection. They are instruction. They are an invitation wrapped in warning. Tai understands. His shoulders ease, and a faint glimmer of hope flickers in his expression. For the first time since stepping through the door, his hand finally moves the last inch forward, resting on the stall rail near hers. Not touching, not claiming, just close enough for her to feel the warmth, the possibility. Amy doesn't pull away. She doesn't close the gap either. She lets the moment stand, because love does not need to be rushed. It needs to be rebuilt, brick by careful brick, until it can carry the weight of both their hearts again. And in that fragile, precious stillness, Heartland itself seems to sigh, as though the land knows what they both dare not say yet. This is not an ending. This is a beginning disguised as a return. Section 4 does not begin with fireworks. It begins with small movements, the kind you almost miss if you are not watching closely. Love, after all, rarely roars when it is real. It hums. It slips into the cracks left by pain and begins to stitch them together quietly. At Heartland, the stitching begins not with an embrace, but with work, because here, healing and hard labor are the same language. The next morning, the ranch wakes as it always has, roosters breaking the dawn, horses shifting restlessly for their feed. Jack already halfway through chores before anyone else has found their boots. Yet beneath the familiar rhythm, there is something new, fragile and unspoken. Amy moves through her tasks with the discipline of habit, filling buckets, checking hooves, tightening girths, but she can't ignore the presence beside her. Tai matches her steps, not taking over, not demanding space, simply moving with her like he once did. It is awkward at first, like two dancers relearning an old routine, feet stumbling, timing off. But slowly, the rhythm returns. Their first test arrives with a horse that has been giving Amy trouble for weeks, a nervous bay gelding named Copper, jumpy and mistrustful of touch. Amy has been patient, coaxing progress inch by inch, but the breakthrough hasn't come. When Tai offers to help, she hesitates. Old wounds whisper that letting him in means risking disappointment again. But something in his eyes, steady, gentle, asking rather than insisting, softens her resistance. She nods. Together, they step into the corral. Amy speaks softly, her voice a steady stream of calm, while Tai mirrors the gelding's movements, his body language quiet but firm. The horse circles, ears flicking, testing. Tai waits, patient, the way he once learned from Amy herself. And then it happens. Copper slows, lowers his head, and takes a cautious step toward Tai's outstretched hand. Amy watches, her chest tightening, as trust blooms where it had been locked away. The moment is not just about the horse. It is about them. It is proof that even broken bonds can be rebuilt if patience leads the way. Later, at the dinner table, the family gathers as they always do. The food is hearty, the conversation layered with interruptions and laughter, but beneath it all lingers curiosity. Lou eyes Tai with guarded suspicion, protective as always. Jack says little, though the weight of his silence speaks volumes. He has lived long enough to know that words are cheap, but actions over time will show the truth. Amy catches Tai's glance across the table, and though she tries to look away quickly, she can't stop this small curve of her lips. The warmth of it spreads quietly, unnoticed by most, but Tai sees it. For him, it is enough. As the evening falls, Amy walks the edge of the pasture alone, the sky painted in pink and fading gold. Tai finds her there, but he doesn't rush to her side. He keeps a respectful distance, waiting for her to decide if she wants him close. After a long silence, she speaks without turning. You're good with him, Copper. You remembered everything. Her voice is softer now, less guarded. Tai lets out a breath. I remembered because of you. Everything I know about trust, about patience, I learned it here. I learned it from you. The confession lingers between them, carried on the cool evening air. Amy finally turns, her eyes searching his face for lies, for cracks, but she finds only truth. There is still hurt, still hesitation, But beneath it, something new begins to grow, something gentler, steadier than the love they once knew. This is not the fiery rush of youth, but the careful rebuilding of two souls who understand what it means to lose. Amy does not step into his arms. Ty does not ask her to. Instead, they stand side by side, watching the last light fade over the ranch. And in the quiet, their hands brush accidental, fleeting, but enough to ignite the smallest spark. The ranch hums with approval, the fields alive with the chorus of crickets, the barn creaking softly in the breeze. Everything seems to say the same thing. Beginnings don't always shout. Sometimes they whisper, sometimes they arrive in the form of a shared chore, a shared glance, a shared silence that feels less lonely than it used to. As the stars blink awake above Heartland, Amy and Ty walk back toward the house, not hand in hand, not yet, but closer than they were yesterday. And that is how new love is built, not in leaps, but in steps. Not in grand promises, but in the quiet courage to try again.